Jupiter, Florida. The hard work preparing for the new baseball season continues on the backfields, while on the main stage, the major leaguers are ready for one of their final dress rehearsals. The Cardinals are just 8 days away from opening day in St. Louis. Today, the Redbirds meet the Mets as the long days of spring training draw ever closer to an end.
Spring can get a little boring and hot, especially in Arizona.
You know, all the old drills that you've done in your whole life. It's kind of repetitive.
That same routine every single day. It's a beating on your body and it's a beating on your mind.
It's a little long for a lot of players towards the end, but it's a necessary evil.
You just can't wait until the first game of the season to start.
We look forward to getting the season going and getting that adrenaline back in.
Everybody's excited for baseball. Baseball's in the air.
Spring training baseball continues on ESPN. Once upon a time, the Mets and the Cardinals shared a spring training base in St. Petersburg. Today, the Mets have made the hour-long trip down I-95 to face their longtime National League rivals here at Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter. Good afternoon, everybody. An absolutely spectacular Florida day. Great to have you along. I'm Dave O'Brien alongside the former batting champion Nomar Garciaparra. Of course, this is the spring home, Nomar, of Albert Pujols. The big question is, for how much longer?
Well, that's been the question coming into spring, and it's probably going to be the question all year long. But he made a point. Deadline is over. Let's focus on baseball, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Albert Pujols not in the lineup today because of facing R.A. Dickey, the knuckleballer. But who is in the lineup and often forget, and it's going to be probably a bigger story throughout the season, is Matt Holliday. Another big bat that we often forget because of Albert Pujols, but really thrives when he has Albert Pujols hitting around him.
Good to have him in the lineup today, and of course an all-star in his own right. And how about the year that R.A. Dickey had, the knuckleballer for the New York Mets a season ago? He was one of the best stories in baseball after kicking around in the minor leagues, some big league cups of coffee for about 12 or 13 years.
Best story, and one of the best stories in baseball, and one of the best stories in the Mets camp, when there's some that haven't been so great, but definitely a bright spot. Here's a guy who gets cut, first cuts in last year's camp, but this year finds himself in the rotation and a 2-year deal to go with it.
All right, in the lineup today for the New York Mets is their first baseman, Ike Davis, who's really swinging a fine bat for the Mets. Mets-Cardinals coming up from Jupiter. We understand in parts of the Northeast it's actually snowing today. So here's our postcard to you from Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter, Florida. Sunny and pushing 80 degrees. A lot coming up in our broadcast here this afternoon. Tim Kirkshin will bring you interviews with players during the game. We'll discuss the NL Central with Chris Singleton in the Baseball Tonight studio. We'll visit the managers in the 5th inning, and both general managers, John Mozeliak and the new Mets general manager, Sandy Alderson, will join us in the booth. Well, the Cardinals have lost their ace, Adam Wainwright, to Tommy John, and everyone has moved up in their rotation. We bring in Tim Kirkshin now, and Tim, it's the start of some importance for Westbrook today, given how much more the Cardinals rely on him now with the Wainwright injury.
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, this is a spring training game, but it's kind of an important game for Jake Westbrook and for the Cardinals. He just hasn't found the touch on his sinker yet, and he's going to need to find it because he's going to need to be good. With Adam Wainwright out the whole year, Jaime Garcia moves up to number 2 in the rotation, and he has been hit hard this spring. Coming into this spring, everyone thought the Cardinals would have one of the best rotations in baseball. Right now, we're not so sure.
And of course, it starts with Carpenter, about as good as it gets, a Cy Young winner. But after that, some questions right now about Westbrook, and we'll talk to Tony La Russa about that. They've coveted him for a long time. Really keeps the ball down, gets a lot of ground balls. They love that about him. 10-11 last season between Cleveland and the St. Louis Cardinals. He's 33 years old, out of Athens, Georgia, and taking on the New York Mets today. 79 and 83 a season ago, 4th place finish in the National League East. We give you a look at their starting lineup with Willie Harris at the top, Daniel Murphy at 3rd, Scott Harrison in center field, Ike Davis, followed by Brad Emus. That's a big story. Looks like right now he's the man to beat for the everyday second base job. They have released Luis Castillo. Lucas Duda, an intriguing story in right field, of course, with Carlos Beltran still nicked up because of the knees, and Josh Tolley is the everyday catcher.
Yeah, especially when you got somebody like R.A. Dickey up there on the hill. Josh Tolley has really come around, has been the catcher that's capable of catching that knuckleball. I was talking to Ronnie Polino about it earlier today, and he goes, no, I was taking too many welts off my chest, off my shoulder. I'll leave it to Josh, and he's done an excellent job behind the plate.
Is the old Bob Uecker line about how do you catch a knuckleball? You wait for it to stop rolling and you go and pick it up. Well, here's Willie Harris to lead it off, the 32-year-old left-hand hitter who's a member of the White Sox that won the World Series back in 2005 and got a ring from that. He's also played for the Orioles, the Red Sox, Atlanta, and the Washington Nationals. He's in left field today. He'll be followed by Daniel Murphy, who's at third base. David Wright did not make the trip. Jose Reyes also not here today, and the Beltran saga continues to be an ongoing bit of mystery for the New York Mets. Will he or will he not be ready to play right field on opening day because of those horrible problems he has had with his knees?
And it makes it tough for new manager Terry Collins to try to say, okay, what is going to be my opening day roster with a guy who's so integral part of middle of that lineup in Carlos Beltran, and not knowing you got to change the whole lineup and get guys ready in this last week.
We'll talk to Terry Collins in the broadcast, and the first pitch is going to miss down low for ball one. James Hoy, big league umpire, back behind the plate. It's interesting at this point in spring training too, you get big league umpires at every spot, all four positions. You got to like that.
You do. They have to get into their opening day routine as well, and you'll see them moving around as the game goes on.
Westbrook, a quick worker, delivers a strike. The Cardinals have always liked him. They were able to land him at a deadline trade last summer and then re-sign him to a 2-year deal in the offseason. ERA was .348 after the trade. It was the second lowest among the starters for Tony La Russa. And that one misses on Harris, working the count here right away. And of course, we're also going to see R.A. Dickey on the mound for the New York Mets today. The knuckleballer slapped to the right side. That one's eating up Brown and into right field. Andrew Brown, the youngster, manning first base, not Albert Pujols. And the minor leaguer getting some rips today. Has trouble with the first one. Now defensively, here's a look at the Cardinals. Matt Holliday in left field, John Jay in center. Tyler Henley, another minor leaguer, is in right field. Of course, that's going to be Lance Berkman when the season starts.
Right, and they're just giving out. They're saying, well, is Lance Berkman ready to play right field? But I love Lance Berkman's comment. I can play right field coming out of bed at day after Christmas.
That's right. And Ryan Theriot now, the everyday shortstop for St. Louis. He is back to the position that he likes the most, which wasn't second base.
Well, and it's a good addition for this Cardinals, especially when you have a guy today like Jake Westbrook, who throws a lot of ground balls with that sinking fastball of his. So they really wanted to solidify up the middle and get some consistency up there as well.
Harris runs pretty well. The man at first base reaching on the error by Brown. And Daniel Murphy, the hitter. Batted .302 last season for the Mets. In the hunt for the open second base job, although the youngster we're going to see today, Brad Emus, seems to have the inside track. He's been an intriguing story in the Met camp. They've had 3 or 4 players going after that spot since Luis Castillo was released. He's of course been picked up by the Philadelphia Phillies and supposed to be in their lineup today playing for the Phils.
Supposed to be. I think they were talking about possibly being in there even yesterday, and he didn't show up to camp, so maybe today.
Didn't sound like Charlie Manuel was exactly thrilled by the fact the veteran second baseman wasn't there when they wanted him to be. Cut and a miss by Murphy, which was the case with Terry Collins, because, you know, with the job on the line, Collins really wanted to see Luis Castillo show up early to camp, and he did not. And that drew the ire, I think, of the Mets, and right away put him on edge and in trouble. Scott Harrison on deck, and Westbrook from the set.
When you have somebody like Luis Castillo, who's a veteran and had some struggles last year, people weren't too happy with him over there in New York, and you have a new manager coming in, I would think you'd want to show up early and show them, hey, I am committed, I want to be here, I want to do anything I can for the team.
You would think. He and Jose Reyes are very tight. Slap to center field. That's going to drop down for a base hit for Murphy. Harris takes a wide turn, but he'll hold up at second base. So the first 2 Mets have reached on an error and a single. We're talking about the second base battle for the New York Mets. Here are the candidates: Murphy, Emus, and Hernandez, and they all made the trip here today.
Hey, yeah, they're all candidates for second base, yet they're all playing all different positions today. We got Daniel Murphy at third with Luis Hernandez at shortstop.
Justin Turner was also a candidate, but he was sent down to the minors today. So he is off that list. And here's Scott Harrison manning center field today and having a really fine spring at 425. 2 homers, 7 runs batted in. And 2 on for him as he takes a ball in.
And there's talk about a battle on right field as well for the Mets. And all 3 of those guys who are in the hunt for it are here as well. It's Scotty Harrison, Willie Harris, and Lucas Duda.
And we understand that Carlos Beltran is expected to DH today in a minor league game. He did that yesterday and went 1 for 6. Flying to right field. Henley getting underneath it. Harris tagging up. And the throw will get through to third, but the runner will also be safe at third. Harris there. Murphy holding at first base. And now with 1 man out there on the corners for Ike Davis, who's the cleanup man today, for Terry Collins. Now possible replacements for Carlos Beltran. Harrison, Harris, and Duda, a big kid, right field today. He's 6'4", 254 out of Southern Cal. And I asked Terry Collins flat out today if it came to that, if it were not going to be Carlos Beltran on opening day, if the knee won't allow him to play, if he won't be ready, would you be comfortable with Duda as your opening day right fielder? He said yes.
He said he really likes what he's coming to camp. He's got that patience at the plate. He's swinging a good bat. And you just talked about how big he is. I think a lot of managers would just love to see that size stepping up to the plate.
Very, very good power. So men on at first and third for Davis. Hit 293 last season, 2 homers, 10 runs batted. I should say in spring training the numbers for Davis, who's not a little guy himself at 6'4", 231. Belted 19 homers and 71 runs batted in to grab the first base job last season. And he finished 7th in the Rookie of the Year voting. Fly ball to center, well hit. Jay backing up, still backing up all the way to the track to make the catch. Harris can tag and crawl home. He is in to score, and the Mets jump on the board 1-0 as Davis picks up his 11th RBI for the spring.
Ike Davis does a great job on this. Try not to do too much. You got a man on third base, less than 2 outs, trying to get the ball up in the zone. Goes starting to go down, but he gets a nice upward swing on it to get that sac fly. Terry Collins is really high on Ike Davis, and this guy just likes to ask questions when he's in a funk. Instead of thinking he knows all the answers, he went out and looked to the veteran and said, can you help me? Help me out here. And that was a veteran at bat right there, not trying to do too much with the pitch, and let's try to get a sac fly.
Davis, the son of a longtime major leaguer. Here comes Brad Emis, the second baseman, hitting out of the 5-hole. The runner goes. Here's the throw by Molina, and not in time. So Murphy is down to second base with a theft against one of the best throwing catchers in baseball, probably number 1.
He gets a good jump off of first base right there. Molina knows that I can't even stand up on this one. I'll just go throw from my knees.
Molina, since 2005, 42% caught stealing to lead the majors. All big league catchers in for a strike on Emis. But Murphy with the stolen base. He's into scoring position here with 2 men out. And big Lucas Duda on deck for the New York Mets. 1-1 breaking ball on the outside corner.
As a pitcher, you're going, okay, you see Emis coming up to the plate. Kind of not tall in stature, but very wide, very muscular. And then you see Duda, and you're going, okay, I think I want to pitch to Emis before I get to a guy like Duda who's standing on deck.
The guy who is filling the on-deck circle, I may want to stay away. Outside, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Emis 25 years old, and our former ESPN colleague, former Toronto general manager J.P. Ricciardi, now the Mets assistant GM, knows Emis very well from out of the Blue Jays system. And he knocks that one. Great play there by Freese to get up. Low throw and dug out by Brown for the out. Outstanding job on the corners. Freese to Brown. Of course, not Albert Pujols over there, but he helps out his third baseman. And Freese with a wonderful pick to retire the side.
Well, this is what they want from Freese. Goes down to gets it, gets up, and makes a good accurate throw. Short hop, good pick over there at first base.
A lot of kids in the ballpark here at Roger Dean. in Jupiter, Florida. The Mets on top of the Cardinals 1-0 in spring training baseball. And the Cardinals, of course, the home team. You see a lot of that Cardinal red sprinkled throughout the stands. Here's a look at the St. Louis starting lineup. Ryan Theriot in the fold at shortstop. Tyler Henley and Andrew Brown are both youngsters from the minor leagues. Matt Holliday, of course, anything but. And David Freese is healthy at third base.
Well, we just saw what he brings to the team in that last inning, making a diving play and getting up and throwing him out at first base. I think they're really excited to have him back in the lineup. Last year as a rookie, winning the position, having an ankle injury, and was swinging a hot bat. So continuing that hot bat here at spring training.
And we'll be facing R.A. Dickey. Robert Allen Dickey, the knuckleballer, went 11-9 with a 284 earned run average. As we mentioned, a terrific story. Finally clicked after all those years bouncing around.
And throwing that knuckleball. That's why I'm with Albert Pujols. I'm sitting today down as well.
Yeah. You had some interesting theories about facing a knuckleballer in spring training as Ryan Theriot takes the first pitch a little high. It's a fastball at 84.
I know Josh, talking to Josh Tolley, I'm looking at these first 3 pitches. He said he's nervous. It kind of dictates how he's going to feel behind the plate. Because if there's a pass ball early on, he goes, oh, it's going to be a long day. He goes, if I can catch him, it calms me down those first 3 pitches, and I'm good to go the rest of the game.
You don't want to face a knuckleballer at any time in the season, but particularly if you're Albert Pujols, who has been absolutely satisfied with where he is. In fact, he's been raving about how good he feels. And then the last thing in the world you want to see is R.A. Dickey coming to Jupiter on a day like today. Shows bunt, pulls it away. And was able to get the bat clean. Yes, he did. No swing, according to the umpire at first, C.B. Buckner.
That's a good idea to try to deaden a knuckleball here with Ryan Theriot squaring around and then doesn't know the flight. Wait, uh-oh, it's coming back at me. Almost hits me. Got to get out of the way. That's what's so tough about hitting that knuckleball. You just don't know where it's going to go.
Theriot landed in a trade with the Dodgers to help the anemic offense up the middle. That one in there for a called strike. St. Louis replacing Brendan Ryan, a good glove man. But they want some offense there, and he is back in the fold at his regular position at short. And Theriot really thinks that'll help that bat, but that's in there for a call. Strike 3. He will take a seat. And the minor leaguer Henley coming up next. Now, defensively for the New York Mets, it's Harris in left, Hairston in center, Duda in right. Murphy at third base. Of course, David Wright will be there during the regular season. Hernandez is at short. Reyes will be there. And we talked about Emus, who they think is fine defensively as a second baseman. He's okay.
He's good, solid. I think what they're looking for is his offense more than just his defense, but being solid out there. Also a Rule 5 draft pick, and it's very rare do you see a guy Rule 5 in a position outside of being a pitcher and make the team.
Tyler Henry here. He takes a called strike. Henley, left-hand hitter out of Rice University, an 8th-round draft pick for the St. Louis Cardinals. He's in his 5th year of pro ball. And again, Tony La Russa is not playing many regulars today against Mr. Dickey. That is up high for a ball.
One of the things you just notice when there's a minor leaguer, notice his helmet. He has 2 ear flaps right there. That lets you know that might be a minor leaguer coming up playing in a spring training game as compared to your typical 1 ear flap big leaguer out there. That's what you try to work on. Say, I want the 1 ear flap. That's when I know I've made it.
It's the anti-concussion helmet that they wear in the minor leagues for protection. And Tyler Henley sporting it today. Goes right through that. Picked up by Tolley. Have to throw him out to strike him out, and does. And good start for Dickey as he strikes out the first 2 men. And Dickey, a former Tennessee Volunteer, began 2010 in the minors, but when the Mets called him up in May, he would go 6-0 in his first 7 starts. First Met pitcher ever to do that. Tossed a 1-hitter in both the minors and the majors last year. Of course, the Mets have never had a no-hitter in the history of the franchise. Oh, so close on many occasions. That is high ball 1 on Andrew Brown.
That's hard to believe with such a tradition of the New York Mets, and it would have been great their first one be by a knuckleballer.
The 1-0 pitch popped up, foul, back out of play. The last 2 numbers, by the way, for the Cardinal hitters have been number 90 and number 91 if that gives you a hint about their immediate future with the organization. But Matt Holliday, of course, who's a genuine star, is on deck in the lineup today, hitting fourth. Albert Pujols takes the day off. That's dropped in there for a called strike.
We talked about the helmet. You want to get that one ear flap. You also want to get a lower number. That also means you've made it.
Work the number down. What's the highest number you ever wore in camp, say with the Red Sox?
I was very fortunate. They had 5 for me, and they let me wear it in camp.
Right away.
Yes.
That one in there for a called strike 3. Got him looking. That's just unfair. Dickey strikes out the side, and Terrio Henley and Brown. He may throw 100 pitches today, according to the Mets. And that's not great news the way he's throwing for the St. Louis Cardinals. He gets them in order right out of the chute. Top of the second coming up here from Jupiter, Florida. Nomar Garciaparra, Dave O'Brien, Tim Kirkchin with you. And Chris Singleton coming your way as well. First pitch in there for a called strike on Lucas Duda, who just marched up to swing.
Did he march up, or did he kind of stroll up there as big as he is?
Rolled in like a tank. That one flicked foul, as mentioned. 6'4", 254. He was the Mets Organizational Player of the Year in 2010. At 3 levels, Nomar, including 29 games with the Mets. He hit 27 homers and he drove in 100 runs.
Well, he led the Mets minor leagues in home runs last year, and by the look at him and his size, you can see why.
First major league home run last September of Tommy Hanson in the 4th inning against Atlanta. He also had an RBI single in the 2nd to spark a Mets 3-run rally. 2 home runs so far here in the Grapefruit League as he lifts that foul, popped up down the left field line out of play.
Well, Citi Field, there's so much has been said how deep those fences are, and kind of take away a lot of home runs. But when you got guys like Lucas Duda, you see Ike Davis, the size of these individuals, you're hoping that that field will not be a factor with their power.
Josh Thole, the catcher, on deck, and then Luis Hernandez for the Mets. Westbrook's pitch is tapped, foul right there at home plate. Westbrook will now be in the top 3 of that rotation. Chris Carpenter will be going on opening day. Wainwright out of the picture for the entire year because he blew out the elbow. Tommy John surgery. That's a 20-game winner and an ace. So more on the shoulder suddenly of Jake Westbrook, who just missed with that pitch.
I think Jake Westbrook, although he says he's not feeling it right now and trying to feel it throughout this game, but I think he's poised to have a great season.
He gets it and throws it like a lot of their pitchers. They don't mess around.
And that, because with that sinker ball, that's great that he has that speed. It keeps the infielders on their toes to make the plays behind him. But coming off that surgery, it usually takes about 1.5 years. But you can get back in a year, but he had a surgery, so now we're looking at that 1.5 years to feel full strength.
2-2 away, and Duda showing good patience has run the count full. Duda out of Southern Cal knocks a foul right back to the net.
Gets often overlooked so much is the pace in which a pitcher pitches. I know sometimes offensively we're like trying to slow him down, get him out of his rhythm, but from a defensive standpoint you love it. And look at Adam Wainwright, Chris Carpenter, Jake Westbrook. All these guys have good pace. Grab the ball and throw it.
3-2 again, and again Spoiled popped up down the line. Long run for Freeze, also giving chase Terrio, and nobody can get to it on top of that bullpen hill.
Tough play right there. You see that bullpen hill, you're thinking it's a week away from opening day, and you're going, all right, let's not do anything foolish here, right? Guys, right now, if it drops, it drops. Let's make sure we finish camp healthy.
Now, if you're a guy trying to make the club, maybe even the shortstop job is open, you're approaching that a little bit differently.
You are, because you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about going out there and making that play.
On the 11th pitch, that one slapped to the right side. Brown there for the stop. And out number 1.
But at the same time, you still think about, well, if I don't get hurt, you know the manager's really not going to get upset if he didn't go all out.
Let's go to Tim.
Josh Thole is the everyday catcher for the Mets. He's off to a great start this spring, and he's done a great job catching the knuckleballer. He caught him 8 different times in the minor leagues, and he said it's really hard catching him because his knuckleball can be thrown as hard as 80 miles an hour. That's much harder than, say, Tim Wakefield throws it. But he said, I've gotten to adjust on every single pitch because with this knuckleball, you have no idea where it's going every single time he throws it.
Interesting, too, and both of you guys know this is the case. Usually the guys who throw the knuckleball too hard, it takes away from a lot of that tumbling butterfly action, and it becomes much more hittable, doesn't it? But in his case, he's able to get the velocity up on it and still get people.
Because there is a lot of movement on his knuckleball. And you're absolutely right. And I talked to Josh Tolley earlier as well. I said, is he going to start changing speeds? And he says he's trying to get more comfortable with changing those speeds, because in some of those hitters counts where it could be a ball and not worry about the control.
1-2, a little flare in the right center field. On the move, Jay trying to get to it. It's in the alley. It's going to roll all the way to the warning track. And Tolley is into second base with a stand-up double. And that's probably the spot he'll be hitting in that lineup for the Mets in the 7th hole. So he looks very comfortable today. A 1-out, 2-base hit.
The great thing about Josh Tolley, he really is focused on contact. He's really not worried about too much power. He stays inside that ball extremely well, brings that barrel to it. Notice his hands are just slightly above. He chokes up on the bat. When you see that choke up, you're thinking more about just making contact as compared to trying to hit it over the fence. But he has some power. He'll sneak up. He might get a few home runs as well, but he's going to drive some guys in just by his base hits.
Here's the switch hitter, Luis Hernandez from Venezuela. Hitting .292, no homers, 3 runs batted in so far for the spring. Signed as a free agent in 2010. Hit .250 for the Mets in 17 games last year. But his season ended in a very painful way. Also, at the same time, a glorious way. His final at bat of the season in September, he fouled the ball off his right foot when hitting against Atlanta's Tim Hudson. As leading off the 6th inning. Pokes that the other way. Freeze gobbles it. Runner holding. And Hernandez is retired. They're 2 down. Well, somehow Hernandez, again facing Tim Hudson, he does this. And then he manages to fight off the pain. He is in agony at this point. But then the very next pitch he gets, look what he does. And not a home run hitter. But he knocks that one into the stands in right field. It was later diagnosed he had a broken foot and he would miss the rest of the season.
That eases the pain just a little bit when it goes over the fence like that.
Tap foul there at the plate by R.A. Dickey with a man at second base and 2 men out. Dickey can really handle the bat. It's one of the things that Met fans really like about Dickey.
He's an athlete. There a lot of times on that hill, with knuckleballers. I know Wakefield was always in such great position to field the ball. R.A. Dickey does the same thing, but he's just a tremendous athlete on the hill as well.
Checks his swing. You can see he chokes up a little bit. He hit .255 last season. And he struck out only 8 times in 51 at-bats. He had some terrific at-bats with men on base, too. Men in scoring position as he has now. He really has an idea up there. 2 down, a man at second, and he rolls that one foul.
Just a great story. I love his comments. He's able to finally have a 2-year deal. I always felt like it was just he had 14 years of 1-year contracts, gets a 2-year deal, and he goes, my goal is to be the best bargain in baseball. That's what he wanted. That's just such a tremendous attitude to come out here. That's why the Mets love him so much.
And he comes off as exceedingly grateful. Loops that one on the infield, and Schumacher puts it away for out number 3. So a little threat for the New York Mets. They leave a runner at second base, and Westbrook keeps them to the 1 run after an inning and a half. New York in front of the St. Louis Cardinals here in Jupiter, 1-0.
Here we go. The 2010 Central Division Championship belongs to the Reds.
Well, the highlights there, obviously, Dusty Baker showered in champagne at the end. Some storylines for the National League Central. No extension for Pujols. That was at the very top of spring training. A giant story in this division. The Reds defending the Central title, and the Brewers with a rotation in flux. Zach Greinke as well joining that ball club. And delighted to have with us Chris Singleton of Baseball Tonight joining us from the studio. Chris, how do you see the division? We know we have our opinions and we're going to give them to you. But does Cincinnati, given what's happened here with St. Louis, do they head right to the top spot again?
Well, I think they're definitely defending their title in that division, but you also have to look at how a team like the Milwaukee Brewers have gotten better. Now, I know they're battered with the injuries. Zach Greinke will start the season on the DL. They've had an injury bug going around that club, not just with the pitchers, but position players as well. But I think when you look at that offense, Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun, who could be an MVP type of candidate, Fielder's going to have free agency, so you know he's going to pick up good numbers this year. I think ultimately this division is going to be a little more competitive. And you can't forget about the Cubs. They did add 2 winning players in Carlos Pena and Matt Garza, so it's going to be interesting. You wanted to say that the Reds were out front after last season, but with the moves that were made by some savvy deals by GMs in that division, I think it's going to be an interesting race.
I know somebody who likes the Cubs a lot.
I do. I like the Cubs. I like what they can bring, and hopefully they can put that over the top. But I agree with you, Chris. I think there's a lot more parity in that division than people thought coming into spring training.
No question about that.
Everything changed. Didn't it for you too, Chris? Everything changed when Wainwright went down. Maybe the Cardinals were the prohibitive favorite because of the strength of the pitching in Westbrook now, but I thought everything didn't get flipped on end, but it certainly tightened up this division.
Well, it was like the sky was falling, because you would think the Cardinals would come back with an extreme chip on their shoulders because they were the favorites last year and the Reds came in and took it away. And then, Carpenter and Wainwright, that 1-2 punch being so dominant, and Wainwright possibly a Cy Young Award winner this year. He's been right there the last couple of years. Him going down was just, it was a dark cloud. And with Albert's contract situation hanging over their heads, I think there was a lot of questions as to where this team will be.
Yeah, tough start for the St. Louis Cardinals in spring training. Chris, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
St. Louis Cardinals 86 wins last year, but finished in second place. Base hit by Matt Holliday. He's going to be a stalwart inside the heart of that batting order all summer long. That'll bring up David Freese, who has returned at third base and swinging a pretty good bat for the spring. .333 with 1 home run. An ankle injury ended the rookie season last June. He was really developing into a pretty reliable run producer at the time of that injury.
And they like seeing that, and that's the way you want it. You wanted, when you come in as a rookie, you want to put your stamp on it and say, okay, this is mine, that somebody has to try to come and take it away from me, and he has done that. Unfortunately, he has that ankle injury, but he left it in their head saying, when I'm healthy, you want me back. And now that he is healthy, they're so happy to see him. I know La Russa's going, okay, I think he can be our everyday third baseman.
He had 31 RBIs in 48 games. Slap to that side on the left. Murphy into second, one on a first, double play. Even though Holliday went in pretty hard there to try and break it up. So the Mets turn 2 fast outs here in the second inning.
It's a nice play over there at third base. Quick release, accurate throw, quick turn and pivot at second base. Going to his left, getting his hand behind it. Matt Holliday going in there with a hard slide. Week away right now. Now's the time. Said, all right, you can't just turn it on, flip the switch come season time.
Yeah, that was an opening day slide.
It was.
Or pretty close. Here's Skip Schumacher. Really seeing the ball well this spring at .421. Had a very tough year physically in 2010. He lost his leadoff job last year. Loops that one on the infield and caught by Hernandez. So R.A. Dickey gives up a base hit, but then the double play ball and another quick out. He sails through the first 2 innings here against St. Louis, and the Mets still lead it 1-0. Well, that's how sunny it is here in South Florida, and if it's not wherever you're watching right now, our apologies, but they need the umbrellas. That's how pretty a day it is. Temperatures pushing up into the low 80s. And Willie Harris to lead off the third inning. Mets in front 1-0. Great to have you with us as we get closer and closer to opening day and our favorite time of the year. Major League Baseball season opener. Fly ball lifted right at Jay in center field. And Harris, who had reached on an error and scored a run in the first inning, makes an out. 1 man gone, facing Jake Westbrook.
I'll tell you, it's difficult on a player. You have weather like this. You got your short sleeves on. It's beautiful. It's sunny. And they said, okay, opening day, you're excited. It's 30 degrees, guys.
Yeah, 30 if you're lucky.
Right.
Wind chill of 24. You've been through a few of those in Boston. Daniel Murphy steps in.
A couple of rainouts and possible threat of snow on opening day.
Well, giving you a look at live K-Zone here today. And there's the box right over Molina. And we're experimenting with it. Of course, K-Zone, an award-winning technology we've had for years and years on ESPN. It's a great help. I know pitchers love it. You've enjoyed working with it as well, and this is going to be in progress in live action to give you a look at where the strike zone is. Danny Murphy singled and stole a base in the first inning. Chopper up the middle and passed the bag for a base hit. So he's 2 for 2. He came in hitting .302 for the spring. So that'll bring up Scott Hairston, who is 0 for 1. Let's toss it down to Tim Kirchin.
You know, Daniel Murphy can really hit, as we've seen in this game, but he's not a very good second baseman because he hasn't played very much there. So they may use him a day at second, a day at first, a day at third, be the super utility guy, because as he told me before the game, playing second base when you're learning how to play that position and you can't see that guy coming at you for the first time in your career, that's a really big adjustment.
Well, he was the regular at first base in 2009, 12 homers, 38 doubles, but he injured his knee late in spring training in a game against St. Louis and tore his MCL on rehab, missed the whole year last year.
And Tim's absolutely right. I played shortstop for so long. I did not really want to go over to second base at all, especially for that fact that you don't see that runner. It's a blind spot when you have to turn that double play. It's very difficult to get that confidence, to believe in yourself, to get in the proper position to make that pivot. Not very, people just think, well, if you play short, you can play other positions. Not so. And Daniel Murphy, they want to find that spot. They might look at him as more of that super utility player we're hearing so much because he swings the bat so well.
Mike Davis, of course, has grabbed that first base job and doesn't look like he's going to let go of it. He's in the lineup today and, in fact, on deck. Murphy on at first base, 1 man out here in the top half of the third inning.
It often kind of helps you at times as a hitter when you might think too much as a hitter and you got Daniel Murphy coming up and you're facing a guy like Jake Westbrook where you don't have to really, if you try not to think instead of focus on like what do I got to do sinking, but you're thinking more about your defense because you're playing all sorts of new positions, it can often help you on the offensive side where I kept it simple, just think and get all my base hits.
The 1-2 and down and in. Now the Mets 79 and 83 last year, 4th place in the National League East. They have a new general manager in Sandy Alderson. They'll be joining us in the next half inning, and new manager Terry Collins. They've recently cut loose second baseman Luis Castillo and left-hander Oliver Perez, 2 poster children for a failed philosophy in New York. In the process, they've been forced to eat about $18 million. I know Sandy has said this isn't about money. They made those decisions because they had to make those decisions to get rid of those players and begin sort of a house cleaning in New York.
And we talked to Terry earlier. He wanted to bring some energy into this team, and I think one of the energy guys is up to bat right now with Scott Hairston.
Runner goes, grounded foul off to the left. And I think that's a major reason that Terry Collins was brought in too. I mean, that positive attitude that he's always had, relentlessly upbeat, I think you would say.
And relentless on winning, wants to win, doesn't accept losing. Says you're supposed to get mad when you lose, get upset, get angry, not be satisfied with that and do something about it.
Hairston 0 for 1. He's flied to right, and that's down low for a ball.
It's a good look with this K zone. You can also see the way the catcher just adjusts out of the zone, especially when there's a man on first, possible base stealing threat, get themselves in the position. We saw their guy here right there when he started off. The K zone was right in front of him. He's over there, obviously inside, thinking about outside. Let's adjust in case the guy steals, and there he goes.
Runner goes again, lifted into right field. And Tyler Henley, with a long time to get a look at it, makes the catch for the second out. Let's toss it back to the studio for an update, and Steve Berthiaume.
Well, Dave and Nomar, no miscommunication issues today. Luis Castillo in the Phillies lineup against the Rays' James Shields, playing second base and batting second, and in his first at bat with the Phillies, grounds out to first base. He came up again in the third, 2 on, 2 out. Castillo again against big game James Shields. And he got a hold of one there, lines out, but it's a line out to second base. The Rays lead the Phils 1-0. Top, going bottom 3 now. Luis Castillo so far 0 for 2.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Of course, he very famously dropped a pop-up while a member of the New York Mets playing second base. Davis trying to check and does, with a runner at first base and 2 men out. Although you get the feeling it went well beyond that, the dissatisfaction with him, and he certainly didn't help himself by not arriving in camp early with the Mets. And they release Luis Castillo, opening up a pretty good battle for the second base job in New York. Davis has driven in a run with a sacrifice. His 11th RBI of the spring, sharply hit, knocked down by Westbrook. He'll have time to collect it and throw him out. So that'll do it. 1 hit and 1 man left. And when we come back after the break, we'll chat with the new general manager of the New York Mets, Sandy Alderson. He'll be with us inside the booth here in South Florida. A sun-drenched afternoon here in South Florida. The Mets on top of the St. Louis Cardinals 1-0. Very happy to be joined by the new general manager of the New York Mets, Sandy Alderson. Sandy, thanks so much for being with us.
Happy to be here.
Well, you're a Harvard man. You're a Dartmouth man. Yeah. You did a tour of duty in Vietnam. But how about the New York Mets now and the task you're assigned to? Is it the toughest job for you?
Well, I don't make comparisons. My memory's not that long, as a matter of fact. So, look, I embrace all the challenges. I've looked at this for the last several months, and very happy to be with the Mets. When I first talked to the Wilpons about the job, I knew it would be challenging. But New York's a great city, a great baseball city. I think the franchise has tremendous potential, and so I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, obviously the ball club has made some key changes. We talked about I fly here to left center field, and Harrison will cover the ground to retire Molina for the out. We talked about the moves made on Luis Castillo and Oliver Perez in particular. So it's been a fairly busy and active spring in that regard for the New York Mets. But you felt these moves had to be made.
Yes, very definitely. We decided to bring both players back. Felt that was the right thing to do. As in a couple of other cases, I and some others just wanted to be able to see both of the players ourselves and make a judgment. But you know, in either case, it just did not work out.
Fly ball left field. The previous shot had fallen in as Harris backs up to the track to make the catch. A nice running play up against the wall, and Molina, who had reached on the ball that fell in, is back into first base and 1 man out.
I know with getting rid of Oliver, and you guys were hoping maybe from a starter or maybe putting him in the bullpen. And talking to Terry earlier, he wants guys that can just get people out and that are threatening in the bullpen. With the lefty lineup such as the Phillies in your division, are you guys thinking about maybe we have to go out there and really find that left-handed specialist in the bullpen?
Well, Tim Burdick has pitched real well for us this spring, and has a track record. In fact, one of the reasons we signed him because he's done reasonably well against the Phillies in the past. So he's done good work for us, and we expect that he will probably be in the pen. Be nice to have 2 lefties, but in Oliver's case, the velocity was not there, and neither was the command. So it's tough, even against left-handers, to have consistent success when that's the case.
Runner goes, and a swing and a foul back by Westbrook with Ryan Theriot on deck, chatting with Sandy Alderson, the general manager of the New York Mets. The situation with Carlos Beltran has been a tough one for the organization, certainly tough for him. I know he's trying to make it back for opening day.
Yeah.
Where do you gauge the likelihood of that?
I think it's still a tick above 50-50. We had a talk with him today. Terry sat down and mapped out a program over the next 8 days. I think it's getting tight. I think the schedule has to go just right in order for him to be ready on opening day, but we backdated from there, and the number of games that we think he needs to play in order to be ready, we've reduced to 3 or 4 really, but still think he can be ready for opening day.
And do you guys feel it's not the worst thing in the world if he's not ready for opening day, that maybe if we push it back just a week, get a few more at-bats in the minor leagues, and then bring him up?
Sure, we could do that. It would be nice, though, to hit that that starting gate with all of our players intact. But if he's not ready, he's not ready.
Westbrook bunting through that last one, so he strikes out, and 2 men gone. The other situation, of course, is with the ownership and the situation with the Madoff bankruptcy hearing and all of that, and of course the organization being sued at this point. Is that a major distraction for you or the Met organization right now?
Well, it's something we read about every day, just as others do. But the nice thing about this job in New York as general manager, as opposed to being a president or CEO, is that I get to focus just on the baseball. And in that regard, this is all we have to worry about.
Yeah, fine play there by Murphy as he fires on to get the out at first base and retire Ryan Theriot. So one man stranded, the base hit by Molina. Nothing comes of that. We'll continue more with Sandy when we come back. It's the Mets on top 1-0 at the end of 3. Top half of the 4th inning, and Brad Emerson taking ball 1. He is 0 for 1 with a tapper to third base. We're chatting with Sandy Alderson, the general manager of the New York Mets. And Emus part of an intriguing story here as he battles for the second base job, a fly to right field. Would you say he's the man to beat right now, Sandy?
I'd say that he's probably leading the pack at the moment. We've had a number of candidates. None of them has really separated himself from the others, but he's a Rule 5 pick. We like his history. Gets into the count. He's a high on base guy, and will bring us a little more offense than we think some of the other candidates might, and plays adequate defense at second base. So right now I'd say he's probably in the lead, but we've got a week to go, and we certainly haven't named anybody the starter yet.
Well, here's another guy in Duda who I know you want to get a good long look at as an outfielder.
He's done a great job. He's played a lot of right field, given Beltran's situation. We wanted to see him in right field, and he's done a nice job of acclimating out there, and has a great stroke, a very short swing, and got some discipline at the plate too, but he's been very good this spring.
What's yours and Terry's philosophy on bringing up rookies, and how much confidence do you really feel in certain positions like that? If I have to throw a rookie in there, we have the confidence in them to do the job.
Well, Duda had some time last September. In fact, he came up and I think struggled for his first 30 at-bats, and then really caught fire. So he's got a little bit of experience. But we've got Scott Hairston, we've got Willie Harris that we like in the outfield, and if Carlos is not ready, it's possible we'll platoon those two. But this guy also plays first base, and if he is going to be somebody that we look at in right field long term, he probably should go to AAA.
Flies that one into left center field. Holiday and Jay closing the gap, and the left fielder Holiday will make the catch on the run. Sandy, when you took over as the general manager, what was the state of the farm system as you found it with the Mets?
Well, I think some positive things. First of all, we had a number of players from the system emerge at the major league level last year. Tolley behind the plate, Davis at first, Bobby Parnell, Dylan G pitched quite a bit. So the system produced some players during the course of the last season. I wouldn't say that we're as deep as we'd like to be currently. Where we do have depth and where we've had some success is internationally. If you look at top 100 prospects, those kinds of things from publications, most of our top prospects, at least according to the independent publications, are from Latin America. So we've done very well there. But part of the reasons that we haven't had as much production out of our system is because we've given up #1 draft picks in order to sign free agents, which is something that we're not going to abandon, but we have to be more judicious about.
The inning goes 1-2-3. Sandy, thanks so much. Have a great season. Appreciate you joining us here today.
You're going to send me back out in that heat?
We are.
Okay.
Next to Jerry Seinfeld.
We'll give you some water, though.
All right, thanks.
Mets on top 1-0 in the middle. ESPN's presentation of spring training baseball is brought to you by AT&T, the nation's fastest mobile broadband network. And back here in Jupiter, Florida, Dave O'Brien alongside Nomar Garciaparra and Tim Kirkjian. And R.A. Dickey into his 4th inning of work here. And facing the right fielder Tyler Henley, strikeout victim in the 1st inning. And Dickey struck out the first 3 men he faced.
He's been throwing strikes with that knuckleballer, been very efficient. It's only his 32nd pitch of the game. Talked to Terry, hoping he can throw 100. He may not even reach that with a complete game today.
To the right side and fielded by Emus, who so far has looked very sure of himself defensively. At least this afternoon. ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball spring training continues tomorrow as Paul Konerko and the Chicago White Sox, I know you're very high on the White Sox, take on the Cubs in a matchup inside the city. Major League Baseball spring training telecast tomorrow at 5 Eastern on ESPN2.
Somebody they talked about the Twins, Tigers in that division. They get so much press. And I think the White Sox are really going to sneak up on a lot of people.
Pretty good lineup here. Andrew Brown, a strikeout in the first inning, 0 for 1, bats again. And Matt Holliday on deck. As Brown looks at a strike, let's go to Tim.
You know, Andrew Brown and Tyler Henley were in the minor league camp this morning, and after their meeting, they came in and said, all right, we need you guys at the big league game. They're throwing a knuckleball over there, and you guys have hit knuckleball pitchers before, so that's why they're over here. They're wearing number 90 and 91, and Andrew Brown said, we are the no-name, big number guys over here, and we don't even care about it. And he acknowledged that someday he'll tell his kids, yeah, Albert Pujols needed a substitute one day, and I filled in for him against R.A. Dickey.
And they've hit knuckleballers, but just not today. They are 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts combined. Tough duty.
And they're not alone. R.A. Dickey, that knuckleball has really been dancing today.
And so far he's allowed 2 hits. One of them to Matt Holliday, who steps in here. A single in the second inning. And then he was put out as part of a double play. Goes after the first one, launches a high fly, but fouled on a right field line. Holliday, the only outfielder in the National League to rank in the top 10 last year in batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage. Hit .312, 28 homers, and he drove in 103 runs. An on-base of .390. And a silver slugger every year as he checks on a high one.
He can really hit. I got a chance to play with Matt Holliday, and just watching him work, watching him take batting practice, it's such a power display, but he really works hard at his swing.
Well, like you, he's been a batting champ. He won the National League batting title in 2007 as he hit .340. The man who protects Albert rockets that one down the left field line, and that's a fair ball all the way to the fence. It ricochets to the track. Harris picks it up. It'll be an easy 2 bases for Matt Holliday. So he's figured out R.A. Dickey. If nobody else has today, he's 2 for 2.
Well, I don't know if you can ever really figure out a knuckleballer, but he does an excellent job waiting back on this pitch. You see him get his foot down out in front just a hair because of that knuckleballer, but keeps that bat through the zone, and he's so strong. You see them kind of out in front a little bit, but still is so powerful. You see those big forearms of his and can still drive it down the line for a double.
You were talking about yesterday how difficult it is to discipline yourself at this level to wait. And, you know, on a knuckleball guy, I guess that's something you have to do as well. But just that discipline it requires to allow the ball to get deep.
Yeah, that you hear so much that term, get deep. What does that mean? Well, that means letting the ball get to you, get back, kind of crossing the plate over the plate before you get your swing.
Amos scoops it up and puts him out at first base. So 1 man left. Nothing comes of the Holliday double. Stay tuned. We'll have the managers direct from the dugout. Terry Collins up first when we come back after the break here in Jupiter, Florida. The Mets with a 1-0 lead over the St. Louis Cardinals as we go to the top half of the 5th inning on a perfect day here in South Florida. Great to have with us Terry Collins, the new manager of the New York Mets. Terry, thanks so much for being with us.
It's fine. It's okay, Dave. It's good to be with you. It's hot down here.
It is hot. We're watching you and watching Jerry Seinfeld kind of baking down there, but Dickey looks great early.
Oh, he's got a great knuckleball going. He his last time out, he was working on a few things and found the release point, and it's been outstanding today.
We were talking to Josh Tolley earlier, and he said, well, I asked him about his anxiety behind home plate, and he says, well, it's really the first 3 pitches. If I can catch him, I said, okay, I calm down. But if I don't, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, you know, there are some he throws that even R.A. has told me when he lets it go, he thinks to himself, oh, God, please knock it down. So, and today he's got one of those kind of days.
Luis Hernandez getting to start at shortstop. Of course, Terry will have Jose Reyes there on opening day. Terry, you say that Reyes has looked terrific in a lot of ways so far this spring.
Well, you know, I thought last year after he got through the year and realized that his legs were back and spent all winter long working on his speed again and really getting his legs in great shape, he's had a tremendous spring, and I think he's going to be as electrifying on the base as he has in his past career.
Slap to the right side, and Hernandez is 0 for 2 today. Could we be looking at a couple of positions that will be the same as they are today come opening day, specifically in right field if Beltran does not come around, and with the youngster Emus at second base?
Yeah, there's certainly a possibility of that happening. Lucas Duda has really had a great spring for us and offensively, and you know, he's going to supply a lot of power from the left side if Carlos can't get out there, and certainly our second base position has been a battle all spring, and right now Brad Emus looks like he might have the heads up and or the go-ahead to have that job to lose.
I want to know, are you feeding the rest of your team the same things you're feeding Duda out there in right field?
He is a big, strong man, Nomar. I'm telling you right now. When those kind of guys go out there, they can do some damage.
Right, and especially how do you feel, especially with a guy like that, and you look at Citi Field and you look out in right field and how far that is?
Yeah, you got to have some power to hit it out of there. But the one thing Lucas does, he's showed last year he's a good RBI guy. He'll get some base hits for you with runners in scoring position. And the power's it's always going to be there, but I like the fact that he's disciplined to plate. His first at bat today, 11 or 12 pitch at bat, kind of tells you the kind of hitter he is.
Terry, are you managing attitude as much as anything this year for the New York Mets?
Well, Dave, we've tried too early in camp. We've had this club suffered a couple of tough years, and even before that, where they got beat right at the last game of the season and tremendous letdowns. And we tried to go about rebuilding some confidence on this club because we've got good players here, and we should have some success here. It's time for them to realize they're good enough, and that's what we've been trying to do all spring.
What's the latest on Santana, Terry?
Well, he's in the stage 1 of his rehab, and that's at post-surgery throwing, playing catch. We're hoping that certainly by maybe the All-Star break, he's back on the mound for us.
Terry, thanks so much, and have a great year. We'll see you very soon in the regular season on ESPN.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Terry Collins, 1, 2, 3. Nice play there by Westbrook on the hill, defending his position quite well, and gets through that for a second consecutive 1-2-3 inning. And it's still a 1-0 game here as the New York Mets have the lead after a first inning run. Let's give you a look at the Cardinal headlines. First, the Albert Pujols contract situation. They will not talk the rest of the season. Pujols and Holiday, a dynamic duo at least for one more year. Lineup additions including Terrio and Lance Berkman will be the new right fielder, though he didn't make the trip today. And Wainwright is out, one of the two aces, out for the year because of Tommy John surgery. Huge blow for Tony La Russa and the St. Louis Cardinals. However, still a very good pitching staff. Looks like Kyle McClellan will be that number 5 guy. We'll be visiting with Tony La Russa in just a little bit about some of the headlines and other stories involving the St. Louis Cardinals. Still expected to be very much a contender inside the National League Central, and a manager bound for the Hall of Fame. Tony La Russa himself should be worth 10 wins.
10 wins, that's a lot, but you're absolutely right. I mean, he is a Hall of Fame manager. I mean, his career has just been tremendous, not only just during the regular season, but in the postseason as well. I think ranks 3rd or 4th in postseason wins.
Indeed, his 16th season at the helm of the St. Louis Cardinals. They won 86 games a season ago. And today facing R.A. Dickey, who continues to throw zeros up there on the scoreboard. We're very happy to bring in the Hall of Fame bound manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, Tony La Russa. Now, Tony, why the giggle there?
It's like a kiss of death, man.
Sorry about that. First of all, how pleased are you with camp? It obviously didn't start out the way you wanted to with the Wainwright situation.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, that's just a tough break. But if you look all over, there's 30 teams all going to go through something like that. So you just got to hang with them. But what I do look at is the effort and the execution has been outstanding through the practices and through the game. So I mean, I'm really pleased with our club.
What are you most pleased with, especially some of the new faces like a Ryan Terrio, who you got to believe is going to hit the ball. He's done that throughout his career and settled in at short.
Well, I think our front office, ownership committed some resources, and our front office led by John Mozeliak, they were really aggressive early, and they added not just talent to fit our club, but really good competitive guys that understand how hard you got to play over the course of the season. So Ryan's one of them, and then you talk about Jake Westbrook as a pitcher, Gerald Laird, Lance Berkman. Man, those guys are all winners.
And speaking of Jake Westbrook, he often is more of a second half guy. What do you see from him today, and do you think that's going to change this year?
Just keep talking, man. You're 1 for 1. So, well, he's so excited because he's healthy this year. And, that counts for so much. He's gone into camp. I mean, even in the winter, he was able to work out. He's coming into camp, and he's able to work on things that I think are going to get him off to a quick start. But I just love the way he goes about it. You can see he's a cat on the mound, helping himself by his fielding.
Well, base hit by Schumacher will bring up Yadier Molina. Base hit his first time up, talking with Tony La Russa in his 16th year at the helm of the St. Louis Cardinals. And Tony, for you personally, only going 1 year at a time now, but you seem comfortable with that as far as your contract.
Well, I think it's fair for the fans. I mean, I think when a guy's been around an organization for a while, I think every year the organization should make a decision and not look at anything else other than who should be the guy. And then players, they get tired of you. And then last but not least, you should check yourself and see whether the fire is still in your gut. And I just wait to the end because I think that's the fairest thing for everybody.
And you still have that fire. Now 126 wins to surpass John McGraw for second place all time in managerial wins. How does that make you feel when you come to those milestones as Molina gets drilled?
Okay, I guess I'm going down. You know what I feel like? My dad always said, keep it simple. Like right now, we're losing 1-0 in the fifth, and we're going to try like heck just to try to win the game we're playing, and everything else takes care of itself.
Well, I know you want to get something going, as you just said, so we'll let you manage. Something you do so very well. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. We'll see you during the season.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, thanks to Tony La Russa. And runners on at first and second after the Schumacher base hit, and Molina hit by the pitch. That brings up John Jay. Throw down a second. Got the runner off. Throw into third. The tag, and he is out. Schumacher cut down. I don't know. Are we going to get blamed for that? Because we took Tony's concentration away?
I think so. He probably wanted to keep asking us questions right now. If Schumacher just gets caught off base right here. Oftentimes a knuckle, he thinks, you see him kind of bunt through. He's going to assume you're going to make contact, but he has to freeze. And they did an excellent job by the Mets. You got the shortstop backing up in case he does bunt through the ball. And Josh Tolley, quick release out there and gun it down Schumacher.
And cut him down. So now runner at first base. He'll swing away and loop a foul out of play.
And we heard earlier Tony La Russa going, let's get something going here, and that's not what you want to see as a manager. Is can destroy that rally really quick.
Westbrook, the pitcher, is on deck. And both pitchers have actually thrown the ball quite well as that one drifts away, the knuckleball.
One of the toughest play as a base runner when you're on second and you know the hitter is bunting, your angle, and you see him keep that bat out, you assume he's going to bunt the ball.
Top half of the sixth inning, 1-0 the Mets here in spring training baseball on ESPN. We apologize for some technical difficulties that we had in the previous inning in our transmission here from Jupiter. As Daniel Murphy gets in and looks at a strike. Murphy 2 for 2 today with a pair of singles. He's also stolen a base. So batting at .327, no home runs so far for the spring. Tries to check up and in, and he did.
Can we blame the technical difficulties on the beautiful weather here, the sun, or do we blame it on the snow back in Bristol?
I think the second one is probably the way to go because people are sick to death. They're absolutely sick and tired of the weather in the Northeast. It's been a horrendous winter so far, and it's over, I guess, technically, because we're now into spring, but all evidence to the contrary. Just wearing people out, but this is the place to be.
Up in the Northeast, they're going spring, look out the window.
Exactly. Popped up foul out of play by Murphy. Scott Harrison and Ike Davis scheduled to hit next for the Mets. Still leading at 1-0, a first inning run on a sac fly by Davis to drive in Willie Harris, who had reached on an error on a young first baseman Andrew Brown. He gets a chance here, down for it on a backhand stab. One man gone in the sixth. ESPN is your NBA destination for Wednesday night's doubleheader. First at 8 Eastern, the Orlando Magic battle the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. And at 10:30 Eastern, the San Antonio Spurs head to Denver to take on the new-look Nuggets. It's the NBA on ESPN tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern with the Kia NBA Countdown. Well, that'll do it for Westbrook. His day is done. He has to be very happy. He had been up and down so far this spring, but he allows only a handful of hits and gives way to the bullpen. That'll be Augustine coming on. Well, the tall right-hander Brian Augustine coming out of the bullpen at 6'6", 230, a right-hander from Sebastian, Florida. He toiled in the minor leagues last year's 5th minor league season. Between AA and AAA, 6-9 with a high earned run average. He relieves Westbrook, who went the first 5 1/3, and through 85 pitches, he has to be real happy. So we give you a look at live K-Zone here from spring training, and the first breaking ball is in for a strike here on Scott Hairston.
Westbrook looked really good today. Had a good confidence on that hill, had good pace as far as the way he was working. Really quick grabbing that ball, getting on the hill. And I think a lot of it also says about Yadier Molina, and he gets overlooked when you look at pitchers who can work at that pace and get their infield. We talk about that, how important it is for your infielder to be ready. And that's because it comes with the confidence in your catcher that whatever he puts down, you're saying yes and get your grip and let it rip.
Hairston 0 for 2 with a couple of flies to right field. Takes a strike in the outside corner. He'll take a seat. Looking on the 3rd strike, and they're 2 away in the Mets 6th.
Saw that on the K-Zone. It looked a little bit outside, but it had good movement coming back, kind of a backdoor sinker. Started off from the outside, froze Jerry Hairston, and it falls back, sinks back right over the plate. Outside on K-Zone, but right down the middle of Yadier Molina's body.
Sends up Ike Davis, who has driven in the run today on a sacrifice. He's also grounded back to the mound. He waves right through that 70-mile-an-hour pitch for strike 1. Davis really closed the season particularly strong. He hit .344 in September last year. They called him up on April 19th, and he got his first major league hit in his first at bat. It was a single against the Cubs.
And we're talking about Terry earlier. We were talking to him, and what he was telling us about how he makes adjustments and he asks questions. I was talking to Ike Davis, and I said, anything different you doing this year? And he goes, I'd just like to shorten up a little bit, not be so long with my swing.
Tags that one to dead away center field. Jay backing up, has room to make the catch on the warning track. About 395 feet dead away by Davis. He hit it well, but it's a 1-2-3 inning. A great, great day to be outdoors, hanging with Mom at the ballpark. You want to ever address that? A big crowd on hand here in Jupiter, Florida. It is a 1-0 Met lead. Very well pitched game to this point here in the bottom half of the 6th inning. Great to have the general manager of the St. Louis Cardinals with us. John, you're all tanned up. You look like you've been out in the sun like this for the last several weeks. I know you've been working hard, though.
Yeah, I've been baking out there today. But it's been an interesting spring, as you guys know. Obviously, we got off to a very rough start early in camp, but things have smoothed out through this process. And, you know, frankly, we're pretty optimistic about the club we have.
I got to ask you, though, about that rough start. You're talking about Wainwright. You lose one of the great pitchers in baseball, a Cy Young candidate, a 20-game winner, right off the bat. What is that feeling like in the pit of your stomach? That's how you start camp.
Well, it wasn't good. When you build a club all offseason, and obviously you make a lot of assumptions, and one of the assumptions was we were going to have a very good starting rotation. And you know, right from the beginning, we lost him, and we've just had to adjust. But we've been fortunate. Kyle McClellan's been able to step in, and we really think he's going to be a very solid starter for us. You know, the big question for us is, will we be able to backfill for him in the bullpen? And time will tell. But as you look at our club, we built it to be an offensive club by bringing in Terrio, Berkman, and we really think surrounding those guys with Pujols and Holiday, we should score runs. So it's really going to come down to, can our bullpen handle those rigors that are expected day to day.
And who do you think is going to be able to fill in McClellan's spot? right now, as I mean, I know it adjusts, but right now as camp is going.
Yeah, candidly, I don't think we have one name that jumps out at you, but I will say that Fernando Salas has had just an outstanding spring. He was someone that we used last year and was kind of yo-yoed between Memphis and St. Louis, but he's really had a great spring, and hopefully he can eat up some of those innings.
Do you have any question at all that Lance Berkman, who has not played the right field corner since '04, that he'll be just fine playing there every day?
Well, obviously our level of confidence to make that deal, we realized there was a level of risk there, but given what he's done so far this spring and just seeing what kind of shape he's in, he's really positioned himself to handle it, and I think that's the most important thing. And I guess the other takeaway is physically right now he feels very good.
Terrio here on the day. He has gone 0 for 2. Flies that one toward the alley, and that's into the gap. That's going to settle down on the grass and keep on rolling all the way to the warning track. And he's got himself a double. He'll be content with a 2-base hit, and that's obviously the reason that the Cardinals brought him to St. Louis, to be the everyday shortstop, to be an offensive thrust there at the top of the order.
Well, exactly. When you look at our club last year, we had a lot of strength in our lineup, but at times we just weren't scoring enough runs, and so we needed to find some players that could get on base, could handle the bat, could have situational hitting, and we're hopeful that that strategy will pay off by scoring more runs this year.
Now, of course, Albert Pujols is going to be a free agent at the end of the season, but there is a negotiating window that the Cardinals have that you'll have with him exclusively before anybody else gets a crack at Albert, meaning you still have an opportunity to bring Albert Pujols back long term and keep him a Cardinal forever.
Well, that's correct. Obviously, we went through the due diligence and the negotiating process this offseason. We were unable to get a deal, but we're still hopeful that we can work through something. When you think about the magnitude of these dollars and the expectations of this, it's not just something that can be done overnight. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get a deal, but we're still optimistic that in time we can find a way to make it work.
Were the stories, and I know Albert's commented on them, and to some degree the Cardinals have through you, were the stories about the amount of money that he was asking for completely off base? We were hearing stories about 10 years, $30 million.
Well, I really, out of respect to the process, I can't get into specifics on that, but obviously a player of that magnitude is going to draw a lot of interest and a lot of money, frankly. And so, you know, as we were looking to do this, the one thing the St. Louis Cardinals need to keep in mind, though, is remaining competitive. And to do so, we have to make sure that our payroll allocation isn't too one-sided or invested in just one player. And so the thing we try to do is remain flexible and remain open. And as we proceed in this process into October, November of next year, hopefully we can get something done.
Watch this pitch. It does not strike the helmet. It hits the bat. So it's a foul ball over the shoulder of Andrew Brown. Minor leaguers in the lineup today, batting third. He is 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a comebacker, and he takes a pitch into the dirt.
As a hitter, you don't want that to happen. You don't want to have that fouling off, but as a general manager, as a manager, going, good, it didn't hit him, it just hit the bat, he's okay.
This, as you know, this time in spring training, all you want to do is finish healthy.
Well, and you've got one of your superstars in the lineup today, and Matt Holliday right there in the on-deck area. I think that's the first thought in his mind as he watches that pitch hit Brown's bat right over his shoulder.
Now, for you as a general manager, and you look at your team, you talk about getting healthy right now for the rest of the spring. Would you like to start the season tomorrow? Are you there? Do you still think we're still a good week away?
Well, as a general manager, you would. I think we could use another week just as far as preparation goes for the season, but right now we are healthy. I think we could enter the season in a good frame of mind, and with that, we would like to get it going, because these games, even though they do help you get ready for the season, as you know, as an ex-player, it's still everything's a risk. Right. And right now, just given everything we've had happen to us this spring, I'm ready to get this thing started.
John, how do you size up the division? And obviously the Wainwright injury changes a lot of people's choices, I think. This one looped into the outfield. It's going to drop in for a base hit. Brown dunks it in, and Terrio had to wait to see it fall in. He'll advance to third base. So, I mean, if the first inclination was, well, the Cardinals with that pitching staff and with the changes you've made to get better offensively, they've got to be the favorite. Maybe in your mind you're still the favorite, but it should be a heck of a race.
I've never been good at handicapping this, but you know, from someone that does pay close attention to what the Central's doing, I certainly think that the Reds are the team to beat, given the success they had last year and the way they did it. They should just be that much better. And then in terms of Chicago and Milwaukee, both those clubs improved. So I do think the Central is no longer going to get kicked around as much as it once did.
Well, Dickey is done for the day. That'll do it for him. A couple of hits in this inning, and he finishes up still in front 1-0. We'll continue with more talk about the St. Louis Cardinals as we get closer and closer to opening day 2011. Well, the right-hander Manny Acosta coming on to pitch for the New York Mets, much to the delight of the St. Louis Cardinals, although maybe not Matt Holliday, who does have a couple of hits today. Acosta last season 41 appearances with the Mets and pitched well, a 2.95 ERA, a total of 39 2/3 innings, and gave up 30 hits. Holliday with a good day going, a single and a double as men on the corners. And Darryl Ceciliani is the new center fielder for the New York Mets. So both sides going to their benches a little bit. We talk about the St. Louis Cardinals with the general manager. And John, is this the time of the year you just can't wait to get spring training finished up?
It really is. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, and the good thing about spring training is you get to see so many different players play, and you get a lot of looks at some of your younger players that you don't get the opportunity to do in season. But this time of year, once these guys are hitting full stride, you're ready to break and head north.
And such a great baseball town, Nomar and I. Delighted to be there on opening day. We'll be there against your game against the San Diego Padres in one of the tremendous traditional spots for baseball. Knocked down at short by Hernandez. That's going to bring in a run as Terrio comes in to score, and that has tied the game here in the 6th inning. So Hernandez could not make the play deep in the hole.
Well, here's a tough play. This is one of those kind of in-between hops. You get a high chopper right off the bat. Hernandez, for one, is trying to get there, and you get that high hop. You can't go over there and take it away, so you're trying to sit back and just hope to knock it down, and that's all he could really do on that play.
And will be charged with an error. And Holliday's day is done. He did plenty of damage up there, on base 3 times. So this one tied up 1-1, runners at first and second. And David Freese, the hitter, he's hit into a double play and also rolled out to second base. So he is 0 for 2. Costa looking for another ground ball here, and he takes down low for ball 1.
I know as a player we talk about spring training so much being long as a position player. So for a general manager, the length of it, is it more for pitchers in your standpoint that you're looking at as compared to position players?
Yeah, I think most professional baseball players, especially at the major league level now, come into camp prepared. So for pitchers, it's hard to replicate in-game pitching, even as many bullpens as you may do leading up to the start of games. So I think the length of spring training is really dictated for the need of pitchers. And so I think it's important that we continue to keep it the current length it is, just so guys don't get injured.
Westbrook pitching today, the starter for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he had been up and down so far this spring, but looked pretty darn sharp today. You had to be very pleased.
Yeah, you know, he was someone that pitched so well for us last year, and he fit in so well with the clubhouse. It was great. And the one thing we were nervous about was not getting a deal done with him once he entered the free agent market, because typically we don't outbid people. But in his case, he really liked it there, wanted to stay, and made it a point to get a deal done with us.
And you've wanted him. You guys have wanted him for a while. You've really liked his stuff for a long time. And
had interest in him a lot, and obviously the connection with him and Dave Duncan in terms of paralleling each other in the way they approach things, it was something, if we could find a way to make it work, we were going to do it.
So you knew he'd be a good fit?
And you know, the acquisition cost was high, because obviously Ryan Ludwig was someone that we thought a lot about, and a very talented player. And when you think about, we weren't scoring a lot of runs last year, to give him up was a difficult decision.
And you talked about we don't usually outbid people over there at St. Louis. Do you guys make it a point? You hear so many, as a player, you hear so many players talk about how much they just love playing in St. Louis, aside from the fan support, but also the organization. Is that something you guys really focus on to make sure the players feel that way?
Absolutely. I think when you've done this long enough, you know that if you have to beg a player to be somewhere, you're probably making a bad decision anyway. And so what you try to do is find players that are really interested in being a part of the organization, and then we just try to be fair about it.
Well, John, your Cardinals may be building a very big inning here. They have loaded up the bases with one out. We're going to let you go and sit down next to Jerry Seinfeld and enjoy the rest of this. Or maybe you're on the other side.
Can you find me some shade?
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, and see you on opening day, guys.
We'll see you opening day. Skip Schumacher to hit here. They'll run for David Freese at first base. And they're all filled up now as Schumacher having a very good spring, and he's 1 for 2 so far today with a base hit and a pop-up to the shortstop. Daniel Descalza running at first base, and a high one here. It almost got away from the catcher. Totally had to go up out of the crouch, and Acosta a little bit wild as he's walked a man to load him up.
So we have the general manager on. They get the bases loaded. Does Tony La Russa want to get back on with us? Because every time things are happening. So, you know, he said they don't want to talk to us, but when they do, good things are going on. How about opening day? You think he'll sit there and say, hey, we are superstitious people here in baseball, so maybe they're thinking the same thing. Tony might go, hey, can I talk to those guys? We need a rally here.
More than out to the hill here. And Acosta's a guy who's battling for a spot in that bullpen. And really can't afford a walk on the wild side, but it's exactly what he's doing here. As he has fallen behind ball one on Schumacher. And the pitch popped him up into center field. Ceciliani underneath makes the catch, runner tagging at third, and the throw will come on in. They wanted to cut it, but the run scores. Was going to score in any event, and St. Louis has grabbed the lead. Schumacher with the RBI on the sacrifice, and St. Louis takes a 2-1 advantage.
That's an excellent job by Schumacher, just getting that sac fly. Good hustling over there at third base, and got the team congratulating him on that. Even right now, you want to work on little things. You're thinking, okay, a week away, I'm just getting my at-bats, I'm getting ready, but you got to work on times like this. You see the slow motion of Schumacher there, just making that contact, gets a little bit under it, but enough to get it deep enough in the outfield. As a player going, good, I got the ball in the air, I got a man on third, less than 2 outs. Maybe good things will come out of it, and they did to get the go-ahead run.
Alan Craig batting in Molina's spot. Molina had singled and been hit by a pitch today. So Craig, right-hand hitter, 8th round pick in 06. Not a lot of big league experience, and Tony La Russa is going to his bench very frequently now. That is down low for a ball. So the Cardinals here in the 6th inning grabbing a 2-1 lead. They have out-hit the Mets 6-3. No one's homered today. One thing about this spring training in Florida, it's been pretty much a windless Grapefruit League, and it's very much out of the norm for springtime in Florida. The wind has just been a non-factor.
You're usually looking at before the game, you're checking those flags, see how they're blowing, and you can see the flags just moving slightly, but you're absolutely right. It's just been beautiful here in Florida for spring training.
Greg, right-hand batter, his first at bat of the day with 2 on and 2 out. Rockets that one high and deep to left. Way back it goes into the corner, and she is out of here. Well, there's the first home run of the day, and a 3-run shot by Alan Craig off the bench. Certainly not wind-aided. A big inning here for the Cardinals. They have scored 5.
Well, it was perfect timing. We were looking at the flags. We were talking about the wind. Alan Craig must have heard us say wind's not going to be a factor. A ball up in the zone inside. You saw the catcher looking for it out away, and he didn't get it away. Brings those hands in nicely and drives it over the left field wall.
And a rough frame for Acosta as he gives up the shot. John Jay now with the bases empty for St. Louis and 5 runs in and a ball.
We've seen Acosta facing a couple of hitters having a tough time hitting his spot. It's been a little wild. Went up and in on a couple of batters, kind of almost got close to hitting them, and Alan Craig made him pay for it. Was patient looking for his pitch.
Breaking ball spinning down low. Last half of the 6th inning here in Jupiter, Florida. Now both of these teams without their #1 aces. Santana, of course, still hurt for the New York Mets. Adam Wainwright, he's ace #1 for the Cardinals, along with Chris Carpenter. Carpenter's healthy, although he did tweak a hamstring early in camp, but he's come back 100%. He'll be their opening day man against the Padres. Little tapper, high bounce there. Good adjustment at first base by Davis for the out. But a big inning.
Alan Craig here. There it is. Pitch inside, taking full advantage of that little mistake and driving it over the left field wall. And then what's the best way to finish it off? Is get a nice congratulations here by Lou Brock. Doesn't get any better than that.
ESPN's presentation of spring training baseball is brought to you by Gillette Fusion Pro Glide. Turn shaving into gliding and skeptics into believers. Well, the St. Louis Cardinals have just grabbed 5 runs, including a 3-run home run by Alan Craig, and they lead it 5-1 over the Mets. We go to the top of the 7th inning. Let's toss it to Tim Kirkchin with a special guest.
Yes, I'm with R.A. Dickey. R.A., how good was that knuckleball today?
It was pretty good. You know, I've been working on, in between my last start and this one, some mechanical issues, and I think I ironed them out.
What's that day like when you know, I've got a really good one today?
Well, you know you're not going to throw much else, that's for sure. And it's just a matter of trusting it and sticking with it, because sometimes it moves so chaotically that you'll throw a couple of balls in a row. But I had the feel today where I could get it right back in the zone, which is nice.
What has the spring been like for you for your first spring ever with a multi-year deal?
You know, it's just kind of created some real freedom to not be so results-oriented and to really kind of work on my craft in a way that I've never been able to do before. And it's been a real blessing because I've worked on changing speeds with it and implemented a different conventional pitch. So I'm anxious to get out there in the regular season and use it.
When you look back to where your career was 5 years ago and you were really struggling, and now you are where you are, how do you explain this?
Oh man, I think we don't have enough time. But I think it starts with just a lot of people who cared a lot about me. You know, Charlie Huff and Phil Necro, Tim Wakefield, all those guys were really encouraging through my journey with the knuckleball. And you know, that coupled with a lot of hard work, it's been a wild ride. But I don't know if I'd do it any differently.
Thank you, R.A. Back to you guys.
Tim, thank you very much. So he sounds very, very happy with how he threw the ball today for the most part, and he's primed for the season.
And it's interesting how he said, he goes, I've ironed out some of my mechanic issues today. And he sure looked like he did. He looked like he was right on and right where he wants to be to open up the season.
Lucas Duda 0 for 2 today. He's grounded to first and flied out to left. And you heard both the manager of the New York Mets and the general manager, Sandy Alderson, raving about this young man and his power, and 2 spring training home runs have certainly helped his cause. Big left-hand hitter out of Riverside, California. He takes one in there for a call, strike 3. Augustine fans him for the 2nd out.
I liked listening to R.A. Dickey talk about just the freedom he had this spring training. I mean, he's been around, he's playing this game for a long time, been around for a long time, and to finally feel that freedom at spring training to say, gosh, I just have to focus on my mechanics, focus on just getting ready. I don't have to worry about the results. And oftentimes that makes you pitch even better.
Stress-free. Knows he has a job. He knows he's a key man in the Met rotation to be counted on in 2011.
Like you said before today, it's just what a great story.
Josh Tolley here. He has doubled and struck out. You were talking about this earlier today when we were sizing up Dickey and facing a knuckleballer in spring training. You actually had a knuckleball stance that was different from your normal stance.
It was. I changed it up. I tried to stand a bit more upright. For a couple of reasons. One, it would kind of slow me down because often knuckleballers aren't throwing quite as hard. And two, just why our Pujols is not. It would can get you out of your swing that you want. Might have put you in a funk. And this way, if I changed it and I was like, okay, knuckleballer's over, now I can get back to my normal swing, it wouldn't really put me in that type of slump.
Descalcio throws on to get him. And Augustine continues to throw the ball well. He gets the 1-2-3. The fans will stretch here in the 7th inning. 5-1, St. Louis in command over the Mets. Well, the Madoff mess has certainly been front page headlines involving the New York Mets ownership. Sandy Alderson and Terry Collins trying to put a positive spin on things in New York with this franchise, but the health of two key men has certainly been on their mind. And who's on second? Now, Turner has since been set down, so it's a 3-horse race. And the idea right now is that Emas probably has the inside track on that position for the New York Mets, who are trailing 5-1. Craig with a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 6th inning, the key blow against Acosta, who stays on the mound for New York. K-Zone Live continues. We'll be experimenting with this in spring training games and something you may see in regular season games as well.
I think the K-Zone's great. Gives you a really just good look at where those pitches are going. We talked about earlier how we can also just see the adjustments that the catchers make. You're thinking, gosh, they just stand in one spot all the time, but you really notice how much they are moving throughout the pitch and even when the pitcher's in his windup.
Nick Stavino will get in here. And a right-hand batter takes down low for ball 1. Donovan Solano will step to the plate next. So Tony La Russa is going to his bench with his Cardinal extras. Flick foul back out of play.
It's a good move going to his bench with Alan Craig and coming in, pitch hitting and hitting a home run.
And a no-doubter. An absolute shot to left. And Acosta with the set and the pitch. And a high fly to right center. Pretty well tagged. But it's the right fielder to make the catch for the out. One man gone. Major League Baseball recognizes fans who go to bat against breast cancer. Do you know a supporter or a survivor? Visit honorarybatgirl.com and share your story. Winners will be recognized on field on Mother's Day. Visit honorarybatgirl.com today. Donovan Solano here, 5'10", right-hand hitter out of Columbia. Up the middle, and that's going to go cleanly through for a base hit. He played in Memphis last year, hitting .255.
Doesn't waste any time. I like it, being aggressive right out of the gate, stepping in the box, gets the fastball and drives it straight up the middle. Doesn't try to do too much, especially on the outer half of the plate. You see what a great view that we can. When we can slow motion, that's slowing it down that much, you can just really see how he keeps that head down, gets that barrel straight to the ball, stays through it, doesn't pull off of it, gets a single up the middle.
Here's Tyler Henley fouling one back. The youngster is 0 for 3 today. I get the feeling you would have loved having that as a hitting tool if you had that super slow-mo to help you look at your swing, particularly early or if you're slumping.
You're right, because there's so many things that we play as a hitter with our heads. We think, gosh, we're either too late or we're too slow. We're too late. We're behind the ball. Maybe we're swinging too early. Maybe my mechanics are just off. But by slowing it down this slow and really seeing that, okay, I'm keeping my head on the ball, my bat, look at the way it's going through the hitting zone. It's staying through that. I'm not coming off too much. He did everything. Good follow through, good finish. And it could just remind me that I maybe am doing everything right instead of playing with your head. Say, gosh, what am I off if I'm missing it? And just stay with it. Or notice how my bat might have dropped coming to the zone. Maybe my hands are a little wrong. Whatever my mechanics might be that are just a hair off. We can't slow it down. We don't have the, for us when we're looking at it, we're able to do it in slow motion, but not quite that slow to really break our mechanics down.
Well, you, like a lot of hitters, when you were playing, used to go back in between at bats. Say you made an out, you'd go back into the video room to get a look at your at bat and check on those things. Am I waiting long enough, or am I out in front?
Right, right. Because a lot of times there are times at bat going, gosh, if I missed that pitch, and I'm going, how did I miss it? Was I out in front? Was I late on it? Didn't feel like I was late. And then you go back and you see, man, I just swung underneath it. Why did I swing underneath it? Maybe my front shoulder flew out. By the front shoulder flying out too soon, it causes the barrel of the bat to drop, and you swing underneath the ball. And it's not so much that you're late. A lot of times we can say, when we get that one angle just in center field, you go, gosh, he blew that ball right by him. It wasn't so much that it blew right by him, as that maybe the front shoulder flew out, the barrel drops, and he swung right underneath it.
Off the hands, pop foul back out of play. And can you in-game make adjustments like that? Or,
Yes.
do you need a batting practice session to get back
No,
to it?
you can do it with the good ones, and the great hitters do it in pitch by pitch and feel that. We always hear guys, and I have a tough time believing that a hitter set up a pitcher. They always go, man, he set him up for that pitch. Not so much set up. You just don't take a weak swing just to take it so you can get that pitch later so you can drive it over the wall.
They've said that about Manny Ramirez
Right.
for years, and you guys played together. And that's going to just miss for a ball.
You're not setting up the pitcher. What Manny's able to do is he can look awful on a breaking ball and maybe get fooled on it, so he just swings right through it and misses it. But he's making the adjustment. He knew that, okay, maybe I was flying out. Maybe my front shoulder was flying. Maybe I dropped my hands. He felt it on that swing and goes, if you bring that again, guess what I'm going to do with it? And he has a big old smile on the inside.
3-2 runner goes, lunged at, pop foul out of play by Henley.
Because I truly have a tough time believing that anybody goes up there going, well, if I swing awful right now, I'll set him up so he can throw it to me again so I can. No, you just make the adjustment. Good hitters make it from pitch to pitch. Some hitters make it from at bat to bat. Some hitters have to make it from game to game. But I think that's the difference in the level as you get better, and these quality hitters such as the one who did not play today, like Albert Pujols.
It would also seem to be a major difference in a guy having a long slump and a guy having a very short one. Again, the runner goes. That's in for strike 3. Throw down, the tag safe. So Solano with the stolen base. Henley strikes out for the second time today. And the minor leaguer is 0 for 4. But a man in scoring position here for the Cardinals. They're on top 5-1 in the 7th inning. And the batter will be Tyler Green. He'll hit for Brown.
But you touched on it. Making those adjustments right away does minimize your slumps. Absolutely.
Green batting for the first time this afternoon and fouls that one back. Because you were a guy who you never seemed to have a really long slump.
Well, you try not to. I didn't want one, but I believe the times I won my batting titles, it wasn't because I hit better than everybody that year. I believe I minimized my slumps quicker than everybody else. I really worked on my feel, my mechanics so much, and what I felt when I was going well.
Popped him up on the right side. And Davis getting underneath back to the infield to make the catch. Side is retired. 1 man left. We have wrapped up 7 innings on this beautiful spring training day in Jupiter, Florida. Still the Cardinals leading the Mets 5-1 going to the 8th. Top half of the 8th inning in Jupiter. It's St. Louis with a 5-1 lead on the New York Mets. And of the 8 hits for the Cardinals today, a home run, a 3-run shot by Alan Craig. Trevor Miller coming out of the bullpen now for Tony La Russa, the left-hander. And it takes on Luis Hernandez looking for his first hit today as Hernandez takes ball 1. He's grounded to second. He's grounded to third. So the switch hitter to lead off the inning. You look at the numbers on Miller, 57 appearances, an ERA of 4, and that one outside for a ball.
We showed earlier how Luis Hernandez last year, breaking his foot on a foul ball. And I think it really, coming into this spring training, probably didn't allow him to really work out the way he wanted to in the offseason. You talk about there's a battle over there at second base. I also believe that Brad Emis might be one of the front runners as well, because Hernandez is still getting in shape, feeling, trying to be 100% on that foot now that it is.
Yeah, seems to be moving that way as he takes ball 4. The recovery from the injury is one thing for him. Murphy can play multiple positions, so that helps him as a utility guy. And Emis has support in the front office, and so far he's done just fine on the field. Although 0 for 3 today. Siciliani to bat for the first time, hitting in a 9-hole. And takes the first pitch outside for ball 1. MVP of the Brooklyn Cyclones a season ago. Last year for Brooklyn, he had .351. So he can swing the bat.
I always say these guys with these coming up, getting an opportunity to play, you want to leave an impression on the manager so they remember you. And in case, heaven forbid, there is an injury, that they want to call you up and say, okay, hey, I remember that Siciliani. How's he doing down there in the minor leagues? He did great for me up here when he had an opportunity to play. Maybe we can call him up.
Inside out of the hands, and the count runs to 3-0. And Miller with a little bit of control difficulty coming out of the bullpen. He's walked a man. Now he's gone to 3-0 on the youngster at the plate. And that catches the corner for a called strike. Took a lot off that one. Dropped it in at 80 miles an hour. The 3-1 right through it.
So oftentimes is what you get that one strike and then you just go, okay, now I found it. I found my release point. I found my mechanics are right where I need to. And he comes back with a nasty pitch right after that.
Now the veteran left-hander with a pop-up here on the left side. And the third baseman in a foul territory to make the catch for the out. One man gone. And Tim Kirkland, earlier today we were talking with Terry Collins, who remains very upbeat despite what has not been the easiest camp for the New York Mets.
Right, and he's brought a great energy here. These guys really like him. And one of the things that he's done is he organized a bowling league, and everyone on the team seems to love it. David Wright actually told me that they have their own bowling shirts with their names on the front and the name of the team on the back. They're hideous. I've seen them. They're classic bowling shirts. But David Wright bowled a .259 the first game out of the box this year. He's the best bowler on the team. Jason Isringhausen is second. He's had a couple of .225s, and they have had so much fun with this. Josh Tolley apparently bowled an .88 the other day, and Isringhausen was all over him. But this is what Terry Collins has done. He said, look, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this team, and that's the way he's been. David Wright told me, he said, I love talking to Terry. Every conversation begins with, he's kind of upbeat, and then by the end of the conversation, no matter what it is, he's screaming, he's yelling, his face is red, and he's sweating. That's how into almost everything Terry Collins is.
Well, he says that Wright is at a really good spring in a lot of ways. I know that David Wright is trying to knock some of those strikeouts back a little bit and continue with the good production and bolster the power and all those other things. He can apparently get away with a hideous bowling shirt.
I'm surprised that he's going, all right, let's go bowling, because anybody who's ever bowled, you go out there, your forearms get a workout. Maybe that's smart. Maybe these guys with the bigger forearms all of a sudden, and that's kind of a strengthening tool that he goes, you know what, I'll create a bowling league, and they have no idea. They're just getting stronger and stronger.
Matt Bouchard here, former Georgetown Hoya, getting in the box in a 2-hole for the New York Mets. A man at first base. And 2 men out in the 8th inning. And he fouls it back to the net. Bouchard played at the same high school as Rocco Baldelli in Rhode Island. Rocco, one of the really good guys in baseball, and had that terrible syndrome that just sapped his energy and cost him the rest of his career, although he gave it everything he had. Great athlete out of Rhode Island. That one driven deep into left field. Pisano going back, and it is gone. Bouchard connects in a 2-run homer and drove it just over that wall in left field. So that'll make it a 5-3 game as the Mets draw closer in the late stages today.
Maybe they have something over there in the water at that high school, because Baldelli has some power and Bouchard has shown some power here. Another ball inside. Does an excellent job. That ball was really coming closer to his kneecap, and notice how he kind of brings his hands in. Notice how close they are to his body. That's an adjustment as the ball's coming in to get that barrel on the ball, enough to drive it over the left field wall.
And he did. Another look at that swing.
Not easy to do, to just be able to, he's already started and then just brings those hands in and gets underneath it and knows he's able to drive that out of it. We talked about earlier, no wind out there.
That'll bring up Josh Satin coming off the bench. So Collins getting a chance to look at some kids as well. And likes what he's seen so far here in this 8th inning. A couple of different levels for Satin last year in the minors, but hit .311. He looks at a strike over the inside corner. We got the idea talking with Sandy Alderson, the new general manager of the Mets, earlier, that maybe he felt the minor league system wasn't absolutely stocked, but wasn't as in bad a shape as maybe he had feared it might be when he first took over.
We talked about how they're not afraid to give up some prospects if they can really get that free agent player or make that trade that's really going to help their team. But at the same time, coming in, you see that, I think, too much from the Mets in the years past, and they're going, okay, wait, let's not just jump on that right now and say, let's build up our minor league system. Let's build from within. I mean, look at what they've done. I mean, some of the guys that they have built from within. You got David Wright, Jose Reyes. I mean, why not keep these guys before we let them go and see what they develop into?
Swung on and missed, and down he goes. Satin fans on the heels of the Matt Bouchard 2-run homer. So the Mets have tightened it up here in the 8th inning. They have pulled it within 2, now 5-3. St. Louis, second home run we have seen hit today, and both of them have gone to left field. Some pretty good adjustments there by the kid for the home run. Last half of the 8th inning, spring training baseball between the Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals in Jupiter. Tim Burdick, the left-hander, looks like he's going to make the Met ball club. He is on the mound, and it is a 5-3 St. Louis lead. 64 appearances with Houston last year, so used a lot. A .349 earned run average. Lozano with a high fly into right field. Legares along the line will make the catch, and battling that sun a little bit. One man out in the 8th inning. MLB.TV is baseball everywhere. Watch over 100 live out-of-market games per week online and on your favorite device. Visit MLB.TV for details. So one man out. Gerald Laird coming to the on-deck area. So he will be the backup for the St. Louis Cardinals, the backup catcher to Molina, who got the start today. And another strong catch and throw guy. Although nobody's stronger in that regard than Molina, who has won 3 consecutive Gold Gloves.
And often overlooked for Gerald Laird is he really handles the pitching staff well. And I have to believe that with a guy like Yadier Molina catching behind, that you're only going to get better just learning from him.
Well, 2 down as Descalcio strikes out here, so 2 away for Laird with the bases empty. And Alan Craig on deck. He launched a long 3-run homer back in the 6th inning. Little check swing roller on the infield. And the underhand flip in plenty of time for out number 3. So that's a fast inning and good work done by the left-hander. Look sharp so far this spring. 5-3 St. Louis with the lead as we go to the ninth.
Swing and a home run. The first major league home run for Albert Pujols. Oh yeah, Albert's done it.
The most valuable player in the National League, Albert Pujols.
And this ball is gone. Unbelievable. Diving play by Pujols. They got him. A Gold Glove play for sure.
Never try to think about numbers or anything like that. All I try to do is try to beat Albert Pujols.
Well, Albert not in the lineup today for the St. Louis Cardinals, who lead at 5-3 over the Mets as we go to the ninth in this spring training telecast here on ESPN. Let's bring in Tim Kirkchin. And Tim, the big question everybody wants to know an answer to is how will it end with Albert Pujols? Do you believe he'll be re-signed in that exclusive window the Cardinals have at the end of the season and maybe retire as a Cardinal?
I think he will, Dave, but I'll tell you, I'm not nearly as confident about this as I was 3 months ago. But still, when you look at this logically, the Red Sox and the Yankees are not going to be in the bidding as big players after this year. So that may mean it comes down to maybe the Angels and the Cubs bidding with the Cardinals. Now, I could see the Angels in that possibility, but I cannot see a scenario where the St. Louis Cardinals are going to allow the greatest player most of us have ever seen to go to their arch rival, the Cubs. And yet when I say that, I spoke to somebody today who knows more about this and is closer to this than I am, and I said, what's the percentage chance Albert's coming back next year? He said 40% at best.
Wow, how about that? Ryan Franklin, the closer, in a closing situation here. Tim, what are the numbers we're looking at now? I mean, we couldn't get that out of the general manager earlier, but are the reports of a $300 million asking price on Albert's side, are those accurate?
I don't think it ever came to 10 years, $300 million, but I was told today that 8 years, $240 million is going to be too much for the Cardinals at this point. Now, maybe that will change. The Cardinals have a lot of money to deal with here because of some of the things they've done in recent years. However, they are not going to significantly overpay if nobody else is in the ballpark. And their thinking is, at least the sources I've talked to, is no one else is going to give him 240, so we're not going to go that high either.
Yeah.
But to me, when push comes to shove, my goodness, we're talking about a guy who's had as good a first 10 years in the major leagues as any player in the history of baseball, and I still have a hard time seeing them let that guy walk away.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. It would be a stunner, and that's why I said what I said. Wow. No one's going to weep for Albert Pujols. He's going to make a lot of money. He's made a ton of money already. It's not about that. The idea that he would not be a St. Louis Cardinal, going into 2012 is a stunner.
I think that's more on people's mind. What he's done, not only for the organization on the field, but what he's done just in that city off the field. There's really just been such a warm camaraderie between the fans and Albert Pujols, and deservingly so. He's done so much.
He's finishing up a 7-year, $100 million contract. Mike Davis with a chopper to the second baseman. Solano will set him down. Davis 0 for 3 with an RBI today. One man out in the ninth inning. Well, take a look at this. Most consecutive seasons in Major League history. A 300 average, 30 homers, 100 RBIs. 10 times for Albert. 9 for Gehrig, 8 for Ruth. You realize that Albert Pujols has scored more runs in his first 10 years than Rickey Henderson. He's hit more home runs than Hank Aaron.
He really is a joy to watch. He really is just tremendous. And like you said, to see him in another uniform would be hard to believe, but we're going to find out at the end of the season. We're not going to know anything during the season.
I can add on this, Scott, if you want, just how, what kind of spring he's had, that type of thing, or whatever.
Who pops this one up in a short right center? Solano drifting out, fighting that sun, but makes the play. Timmy, you said you would add on that.
To me, the interesting part about Albert Pujols is how intense he is about every at-bat. He had an 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts in one game this spring. And Mark McGuire, the hitting coach, told me Albert could not sleep that night. He was so upset at 3 spring training at-bats. That's why he is who he is that every single at-bat he takes is as intense as it gets.
See Mark McGuire there, just also got to feel comfortable talking to him earlier, talking about how he's feeling more comfortable as well as a hitting coach, here in the second year with the Cardinals, really getting familiar with the hitters.
Legatus hits that one sharply, but again, Solano there, and that'll do it. So Franklin looking sharp in his role as the closer. Talk about him retiring at the end of this season, but looks like he's ready, and Tony La Russa is for the season to get underway. We will have the Cardinals on opening day against the San Diego Padres from St. Louis, one of the great cities, great baseball cities in America. Cardinals win this one by a final score of 5-3. Well pitched game all around. And I think R.A. Dickey, the knuckleballing right-hander for the Mets, also pleased in his outing, even though he takes the loss and drops to 0-3. 5-3, the final. St. Louis wins it. We'll have a final word as we wrap it up from Jupiter in a moment. So St. Louis wins it by a final score of 5-3 over the New York Mets today, and a glorious day for spring training baseball. Augustine coming out of the bullpen, he picks up the win. Dickey takes the loss, and obviously both of these teams had a lot of news coming out of spring training. Early for the Cardinals, not good news, and for the Mets it seems to be ongoing. The saga of Carlos Beltran, Santana unable to go just yet, and yet they both seem dying to get the regular season underway.
Well, they are, and I think we saw some good news today. You look at R.A. Dickey, he pitched a tremendous game for the Mets over there, and he really says he found his mechanics. And Jake Westbrook over there for the Cardinals, after losing Adam Wainwright, which has been big news, and you lose an ace like that, and I think there's going to be a lot put on the shoulders of Jake Westbrook, but what he did today, he seems like he's going to be ready to handle that.
Hey, I'll see you opening day in St. Louis. Can't wait.
I can't wait. I don't know if the weather's going to be quite like this, but it's going to be a great opening day.
They're telling us mid-50s.
Hey, that's good enough for me.
That's the promise. That's not too bad. 5-3 the final. ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball will continue tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. It's the White Sox taking on the Cubs. Coming up next, Baseball Tonight. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Nomar Garciaparra and Tim Kirkchin, I'm Dave O'Brien saying so long from beautiful Jupiter, Florida. 5-3, the Cardinals beat the Mets today in a quick one. Now, let's go to Baseball Tonight.
ESPN spending spring training today with Albert Pujols and the Cardinals in Jupiter, Florida, where they were hosting the New York Mets. The plan is to have Carlos Beltran ready to start on opening day. We'll talk to Adam Rubin from ESPNNewYork.com about that. So far, the Grandy man can't. Is this a problem for the Yankees and Curtis Granderson? His availability for opening day is a discussion. And more bad news for Kendrys Morales and the Angels. Baseball Tonight, the half hour starts now. Hey there, welcome to the broadcast. It is Baseball Tonight with you for the next half hour here on ESPN. Steve Berthiaume along the way, joined by the Baseball Tonight cavalcade of stars. It's Doug Glanville, it's Chris Singleton. Also in this half hour, we will talk to 3 different beat writers covering issues with 3 different teams. Let's start in Jupiter, Florida, where Albert Pujols, guys, had the day off against Mets knuckleballer R.A. Dickey.
It's a good day to have off. It's Halladay on the mound, Hamels, one of those guys, or a knuckleballer. Just sit down.
Jake Westbrook, the sinker baller, on the mound for the Cardinals. First batter, Willie Harris. Andrew Brown in there for Albert, and that's an error. So there's runners on the corners. Ike Davis. This is deep enough. 1-0 Mets.
Well, the Mets really worked it right there at the top of the order. Willie Harris working the count, getting on. He tags twice, scores on that sac fly by Ike Davis. They were aggressive on the bases. They're going to have to do that this season in order to be competitive in that division.
Doug, you played with R.A. Dickey in Texas. What makes his knuckleball and his repertoire a little different from other guys?
Well, you know, part of it is his velocity. He gets up to 80 miles an hour as a knuckleball. He also complements that with his fastball and a little bit of a cutter. So he can get you out a lot of different ways outside of his knuckle.
How about that one? 2 runs on 6 hits and 5 1/3 for R.A. Dickey. He struck out 5. Third inning, Terrio. Daniel Murphy making plays at third base. He may be the super utility guy this year.
Well, we remember that great play he had a couple of years ago at first. That was a nice one there. He'll turn in some just highlights every now and then, but they need consistency.
4th inning, it's a hanger to Matt Halladay, and it goes down the left field line.
Well, Halladay seemed to be the only one that hit Dickey well, and he clearly waited back in the zone, and then he exploded on it.
Next up, though, Dickey gets David Freese to ground out, and Dickey wiggles off the hook still with a 1-0 lead. We go top 5. Willie Harris right back at Westbrook. who makes a nice play here. He pitched a dandy 1 run on 3 hits and 5 1/3. No walks, 2 strikeouts. Bottom 6, Terrio. The Riot, he's the shortstop in St. Louis this year. Left center, Dickey exits with Cardinals on the corners.
So when Terrio's going well, he has a very short swing, compact as you saw there. But last year he got a little bit long, and that got him in trouble.
So Manny Acosta comes in. Luis Hernandez, Noonan. 1-1. We'll talk to Derek Gould in just a moment here about the health of Lance Berkman. How likely is it he plays all season long in right field? If he can't go, it may be Alan Craig here.
What's up, Craig? Craig will spell Lance Berkman. Probably get a lot of time this year, but it gives you a nice opposite. Berkman being a lefty, Craig being a righty with some pop. That'll help out a lot.
Cardinals are up 5-1. They win the game 5-3. Chris Singleton, I think the thing to take away here is the day that Jake Westbrook had.
Well, Jake Westbrook, we know he had the arm troubles a couple of years ago with Cleveland. He's going to be really strong this year. Last year he had a full season. I think a second season after arm injuries, you can really get on track. With that sinker baller, he's got to have a good defense working behind him.
For more on the St. Louis Cardinals, it's time to go to the creditreport.com hotline and talk to Derek Gould, who covers the team for the Post-Dispatch. Derek, Adam Wainwright aside, the Cardinals seem like a team with a lot of question marks. One of them is in right field. Do we really expect Lance Berkman to play 120, 130 games out there in right field this year?
Well, Lance expects himself to do that. He talked about a week ago about being an everyday player, and he said that entails playing, you know, more than those games, or at least being available to him. The Cardinals this spring have been so careful with him that they've kind of invited the question as to how often they'll play him just to be on the safe side. I think, you know, they're going to give him some proactive days off, and the number that you mentioned there, 130, that would be a godsend for them. That would be more than they probably expect going into this, because they're going to be so cautious going into the season with how much he appears, and he's the kind of guy who, you know, may pinch hitting games but may not start them, that kind of thing. I mean, they're going to be careful, and they got a guy like Alan Craig who offers an alternative. I think they just are really worried, Steve, that over the long haul, the leg and other troubles he's had may catch up with him if they aren't proactive with time off.
And, Derek, it's especially disconcerting when you consider the questions they have on the left side of that infield with David Freese at third and Ryan Terrio at short. How solid are those two guys there at those positions?
Well, the team's become increasingly optimistic about what David Freese can offer. They're going to go into April thinking that he'll play 2 out of every 3 days or take 1 day off a series. But Tony La Russa recently talked about that Freese has recovered well here during spring and looks to be overcoming you know, or at least getting stronger after surgeries on both of his ankles, that he would imagine him being that everyday player, that 6 out of 7 guy that passes for an everyday player on a Tony La Russa team, and a guy who could really impact the lineup. Terrio, I mean, he's a starting shortstop. He'll be out there all the time because the Cardinals don't really have an alternative. They're going to probably they're definitely going to take Tyler Green north, but he's been more of a defensive type of shortstop than an offensive guy, and they have a lot of faith that Terrio is going to find his swing here and be the reliable shortstop that a ground ball heavy pitching staff really needs.
Derek, thanks as always.
All right, thanks for having me, Steve.
Back here with Doug Glanville and Chris Singleton. Doug, the Cardinals team to me looks like a team that could be poor defensively. I mean, Matt Holliday is a very good hitter. He's nothing great defensively in left. Berkman's there in right. Not sure about the left side of that infield. What's the Cardinals defense look like to you this season?
Well, it's not their strong point by any stretch. They have some challenges. I mean, Berkman, the question mark, as you mentioned, is how many games is he going to play? So they're going to need a lot of reliable support from their 4th outfielder, from their 5th outfielder. And you look at Terrio, I think he's a little bit underrated. He's a strong shortstop. I watched him in Chicago. He makes all the tough plays. He's routine, and he's definitely a gamer, and that's something Tony La Russa likes. So they have some tools in there that's going to work out, but certainly with their pitching, you know, keeping the ball on the ground, they're going to need some solid defense.
Chris, what do you think?
Well, it's really rough when you look at the defense to me. You don't have a Brendan Ryan who athletically was just a rangy shortstop, would make some incredible plays. I do agree that Terrio, he'll make the routine plays. He'll be solid out there, but nothing spectacular. When you have these sinker ballers throwing in that rotation with Kyle Loesch and Kyle McClellan at times, Jake Westbrook, you're going to really need guys to pick it. You look at Schumacher, he's a converted second baseman. Around that diamond, a rookie at third base, I think the only guy there, Gold Glove caliber, is Albert Pujols. So with that said, they're going to be question marks. And then you go to the outfield. Berkman in right, Holliday in left.
that's not real exciting either. So I think their defense is average at best, and they're going to have to do everything right every single night, I think, to be in contention all season long.
Rasmus can cover some ground in center, but you can see balls getting in down the lines and in the gaps on the corners in the outfield. Let's metric up here on the Cardinal defense and take a look at it. We're going defensive runs saved. It indicates how many runs a player saved or hurt his team in the field compared to the average player at that position. Two notable changes on the defensive side could come back to bite St. Louis. We talked about them. Brendan Ryan, one of the premier defensive players at any position last year, replaced by a below-average defender, Doug Ontario, who, remember, got moved over to second base with the Cubs. Now, Ludwig was a net positive for them in right. Berkman could be a net negative. He was the last time he was out there, and that was way back in 2007. Now for the latest on the Mets, here's Adam Rubin. He covers the team for ESPNNewYork.com. Adam, Jason Isringhausen at 38 years old, 3 Tommy Johns on that elbow, remarkably in contention for a bullpen job. What's the latest on his health?
Well, Jason Isringhausen had experienced elbow inflammation and had to sit out for a couple days. He threw a bullpen session today. If he's healthy, or they have faith that he's going to be healthy, they'll put him on the roster. Otherwise, someone such as Manny Acosta might get on instead.
Do they think Izzy will be okay?
Well, Sandy Alderson, the GM's concern is that if he puts Izzy on the roster, he could lose a pitcher such as Acosta or Pat Mish off waivers, and he doesn't want to do that and then have his pitcher that he selects break down. So it's still open for debate. I think Izzy's more likely on than not on, but it's still open for debate.
Okay, now the Mets are insisting about Carlos Beltran. He's still on track for opening day. Is that right?
Well, Terry Collins met with Beltran this morning and basically said, you got to ramp it up. Here's a schedule to get you to opening day ready. I'm still skeptical that he'll actually be in a Major League game on opening day in Miami. The bottom line is that he's only had 3 Grapefruit League at-bats. That was more than 2 weeks ago. Also, he hasn't played right field at all. He's DH'd today and yesterday in minor league games, but is not running the bases. He's leaving for a pinch runner. So clearly, he's got to ramp it up quickly if he's going to be ready for opening day.
Adam, has the decision on second base been made?
Well, it's all but announced at this point. They optioned Justin Turner to AAA today, making Brad Emis just about the foregone conclusion to be the second baseman. He's a Rule 5 pick from the Blue Jays. J.P. Ricciardi drafted him out of Tulane there and then drafted him in the Rule 5 draft to bring him to the Mets.
Adam Rubin on the creditreport.com hotline. Adam, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Chris Singleton and Doug Glanville along the way here. Guys, to me, the big question about the Mets and the new regime in the front office with J.P. Ricciardi and Paul DePodesta and, of course, GM Sandy Alderson was separating itself from the old regime. The decisions on Castillo and Perez, those were easy ones. The first real critical decision it seems they'll have to make is what to do about Jose Reyes, who's playing on an $11 million option this season. Chris, if you're the Mets front office, what do you do with Reyes long-term here?
Well, long-term, you hope that he plays well, that he's healthy through these first couple of months of the season, and everyone expects the Mets to be out of the front of the pack, more towards the middle or the back. You hope that he's healthy and he's producing so that you can trade him, get some prospects in return. We talked about how they're trying to clean up the mess. Jose Reyes, not so much of the mess as some of the other guys that have just gotten released this week, but he's a guy at times that has shown incredible talent and incredible ability on the field, but then he's also been very lackadaisical as well and having mental lapses. And with the injuries that he's had for the last couple of years, I think it's a risk to try to hold on to him and sign him in the offseason. Let him go, continue to clean up. Carlos Beltran would be the next guy to follow. If he's healthy, you can maybe trade him as well. If not, it's done after the season.
And the thing about Reyes also is that this guy, at his best, is a franchise player, and they've seen it. He had 4 years in a row. He had 600-plus at-bats. He stole bases. He drove in runs. I mean, this guy is an amazing player at his best, and I think he has a lot of incentive right now because this is his year. I mean, option year now, you got to figure it out. So the Mets are going to have to decide, what are they going to do? Are they going to end up keeping this guy? And I think it's going to be a game-time decision sometime in July to see where they are, to feel if they're going to build around him or build by moving him.
It's a very interesting fork in that personnel road that this new Mets regime will have to decide, do they go right or left with Jose Reyes. Here's what we have on the remainder of this baseball tonight with you until the top of the hour, 4 o'clock Eastern here on ESPN. Roy Oswalt hit in the head by a line drive off the bat of Manny Ramirez today, the very latest on his condition. What about Manny? What are the expectations for him? We'll talk to Mark Topkin, who covers the Rays for the St. Petersburg Times. And bad news in Toronto. Brandon Morrow, it looks like, will start the season on the DL. The latest on that when Baseball Tonight continues after this.